Before we get underway with today's podcast, I want to highlight some recent events that have occurred locally to where I am at. Nashville and Cookeville, Tennessee were both impacted severely by tornadoes that ravaged through those areas. Please keep those communities in your prayers. If you're interested in helping out, check out the link in the podcast notes. Hands on Nashville is currently collecting information for those who want to help in recovery and cleanup efforts. Samaritan's Purse and the American Red Cross are also avenues that you can investigate to find out how you can help. Also, there is a local EMT in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Dwayne Beecham, who is severely burned. Please support Dwayne by going to the GoFundMe page. The link is provided in the show notes. Hey, this is Tony Falzone of the Motivated Medic Podcast. Today's episode is, are these things noisy or are they nurturing? And what do we do about it? Good Friday morning, everybody. Today is Friday, and this is your Motivated Medic Podcast. So I want to talk to you about the opinions of others. And these opinions can come off as offensive. They can come off as encouraging. They can come off as extra noise in the background of your life. Or they can come off as nurturing. And I want to talk about the difference of a noisy opinion or a nurturing opinion. The majority of us have people in our lives that will talk and talk and talk, and they'll give their free advice, right? And, do we really sit down and think about what they're saying, or we just completely discount what they are saying as noise? It's just stuff that we don't want to think about because of who it's coming from. That has a lot to do with it, or the topic of which they are speaking of regarding our life. And then you have people that say things that are intended to be nurturing. So when it comes to the noise in our life, and we all have noise in our life, right? We have those extra things that it's just noise in the background. We don't want to we don't want to listen to it. We want to turn that volume down or completely shut it out of our lives. And it's just noise. And there's a lot of things that is exactly what we should be doing. We should be turning that volume down and focusing on what is truly nurturing in our lives. But sometimes that noise will also help us go in a direction that we're supposed to go, either by avoiding or being cautious with a certain area in our life, and being very careful as we navigate through it, or it'll kind of push us away from that area because it's noisy, and we'll go a different direction. So if we completely throw noise out and then just shut it totally off, we may actually miss some learning points from that. So let's say it's somebody that's complaining about a way that you do something, and this is a person that they're a complainer. They always complain about something. It's that person that, regardless of how nice of a day it is and how perfect everything is running, they find something to complain about. The negative Nancys or the Debbie Downers, and I apologize if your name is Nancy or Debbie. The fact of the matter is, even though they might always complain about something, doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't listen to what they're saying. If you can filter out their tone, and maybe even filter out their intention, and think about the words that they're saying or typing, as the case may be, especially if it's Facebook. And we all know people that completely air their dirty laundry on Facebook, and everybody knows about everything in their life. But if we look at the core message and actually filter out the whiny tone and things of that nature, there may actually be something there. Whether it's something that we can learn from, or maybe the reason why this person is such a negative person or a pessimistic person is because it's actually a cry for help. So that could be one thing too. And then it could be that, okay, yes, this is a person, it's not a cry for help, but there might be a learning point there. And if we go through our lives and start to change the way we view negativity, and I'm not saying, oh, well, we should make a negative into a positive. I'm not saying that, because if it truly is negative, it's negative. However, if it helps us look inward and helps us focus on, well, is this something that I can apply in my life? Is this something I can look at in my own life? Even though it's coming from this individual with this tone and maybe even in this intention, maybe they are trying to be criticizing in a negative way. It's not constructive. It's selfish on their part. But taking ownership in, okay, controlling my response first and foremost, and not just a knee-jerk reaction of, you're a horrible person and just be quiet. I don't want to listen to you. Go away. Or I'm going to go away because I can't stand being around you. But focus on, is there any truth to the words that they are speaking? Is it truly noise that is coming out of their mouth? Or is it something that could potentially be nurturing to you, or maybe even to somebody else, and they intended it to be negative, but it actually gave you some perspective? And like I said, I'm not saying take everything that's negative and say, oh, well, no, this is good. I should be, I should think that I'm a horrible person, or I should think that I'm always, too lazy or something like that. You've got to really bring the truth filter here in the sense of, is it true? If it is true, is there action that I need to take in order to fix it? And what I mean by fix it is there something that's being pointed out in my life and it's coming across as negative and the intention is negative, but it actually is true in the sense that it's a problem that you have that needs to be fixed. So look at the noise, the opinions, and really think about, is this truly noise? Is it noise, or is it a nurturing? Is there some nurturing in there that I've just got to scrape the excess fluff away and the excess annoyances away? And like I said, this may be coming from somebody that they always annoy you. They're that person in the room that just drives you up the wall one way and down the other side. And think about, is this noise truly noise, or is it nurturing? And see how that affects where you are. See how that affects your journey. See how that affects other people. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's about other people that they're talking about. And maybe it gives you some perspective, even though it was intended to be a complaint. Maybe it gives you some perspective into the lives of the people that they're talking about. And that you can take that and kind of turn it around and talk to them about the person that's complaining and say, yeah, I see what you're saying, but this is this about this person or this people group or whatever it is, and kind of turn it around and like, well, have you thought about this? And maybe this is affecting this person, and this is why, they're doing this or saying this or what have you. You can always take something away. There's always a lesson to be learned, regardless of how noisy somebody is. And sometimes the noisier somebody is, if you get through the layers of that noise, you may find either a problem that is not being addressed, underlying problem, or you may actually find something that's valuable that's just hard to see because of how it's being presented. I think about my kids when they have an issue and they're just screaming and they're at each other's throats about this issue. And the issue may be legitimate. It may be an actual problem that needs to be addressed. But if I hone in on how they are acting and the emotion of the moment that they are presenting, for one, I'm going to get emotional or, be it frustrated, angry, freaked out. If we attach onto the emotion of the issue, our ability to recognize the truth or the facts of the matter, just the facts, ma'am, will be skewed. So being able to control and discipline our emotions will give us the freedom of having insight into what the actual issue is. That the whole discipline equals freedom mindset. And there's an extremely large amount of truth with when it comes to trying to get into what is going on in especially a very chaotic situation. Maybe it's not your kids. Maybe this is a situation at work. Maybe this is, let's think about the clinical side of it. Maybe this is a code. Maybe this is a traumatic arrest of a patient that you have. And there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of fluff going on. You've got people who are just yelling and screaming. Maybe you're at a residence. Maybe you got dispatched to a residence, whether you're an officer or a medic or an EMT or a firefighter, and the scene, regardless of the actual, if it's a patient or a structure fire or some criminal activity, you have to look at, okay, there's all these noises going on around, but what am I missing here? And you've got to focus on what is really there. And obviously this isn't, the nurturing thing, although if you're able to provide aid, that's nurturing. So looking through the noise to see if there's something there that needs to be dealt with, that because of all the motion, because of the circumstances, because of the sights and sounds, it's very difficult to peel that back and focus on, okay, how do we need to set this scene up to where it's safe, we get done what needs to get done, that immediate action plan or action drill, and focus on what really needs to be addressed here. So I want you to think about that as you go through this week, and just, is it truly noisy? Is there a nurturing aspect in opinions, in situations, in somebody's life, in your own life? Do you have too much noise in your life? Or is there something with that noise that either addresses a nurturing subject in your life, or is that noise taking away from something that should be nurturing? Be it a relationship or a certain characteristic in your life. Are you allowing too much noise into your life? So there's a bunch of different variations here that you could focus on, and what is going on in your life, and what needs to be addressed and focused on. But think about, are you focusing on the noise, either of somebody else's opinions or a situation, or of the distractions in your life? Or are you looking for the nurturing aspect? And is there any nurturing in the noise that you're seeing or hearing? I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're having a good week. I tried to post a podcast that was live last week, and I didn't completely educate myself on the live podcast. So check out my Facebook page, and the podcast that I had hoped to post to the podcast app, to Podbean, was in a video format that I was able to post. So I did do a podcast last week. So if you're like, Tony, where's the podcast? It is on Facebook. It's just in a video form, and I'll see if I can actually pull the audio from that and add it for last week. So you might see 2 podcast posts. You'll see this one and then that one from last week. But be safe, be savvy, be a motivated individual. And motivation, like we talked about, means movement. Be moving in a positive direction. Be motivated in a positive direction. Be a motivated medic if you're a medic, an EMT. Be motivated where you're at. Make a difference. Are you hearing noise, or are you hearing nurturing? Until next time, this is a Motivated Medic, signing out. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Motivated Medic. Be sure to check out motivatedmedic.com and also the 911 Buddy Check Project.